All right, our topic today is listening, assessing listening. So listening is a receptive skill, as you know, and it is tested similar to reading, yeah? Which means in listening we test comprehension, yeah? Understanding, how much students understand or what they listen. And as Prashan mentioned, if you remember from our class introduction, instructional technology, yeah? Russian emphasized listening skill because speaking isn't as important if you don't understand what people are saying. If if the interlocutor, the person you're speaking to, is difficult to understand, then you might not be able to respond correctly or appropriately. Yeah, this is why listening is of utmost importance, actually. All right. Usually listening and speaking go together. Yeah, they usually go together. We even have courses like listening and speaking. Yeah. But sometimes we need only listening. For example, when we listen to lectures or when we listen to station announcements. Okay, passengers of flight, I don't know, Almaty, New York, please proceed to gate number and blah, blah, blah. So sometimes we need only listening and we don't have a chance to ask for feedback, yeah, or we don't have a chance to ask to repeat. This is why we also must be trained to listen only once and understand the information without a chance of listening it again. This is why I think IELTS actually, in IELTS, we listen tracks only once, yeah, not twice. Well, this is actually criticized by some testers and educators because they say in real life, people have a chance to ask for more information. Or in real life, they can say, excuse me, can you repeat that, please? Excuse me, I don't understand. Yeah, can you paraphrase? Can you say it again, please? So we actually can ask interlocutors to repeat it in real life, and this is authentic. However, other educators say that in real life we also watch TV, we listen to lectures, or listen to station announcements, yeah, or airport announcements, and we don't have a chance to listen to it again. Yeah. So the truth is somewhere in between. Yeah. All right, these are the functions, yeah, that candidates should be able to perform. They should be able to generate this. So understand requests, recognize and understand suggestions. So students must be actually trained to listen to those markers. So there are some usual marker words, yeah, like we teach in reading, yeah, like, firstly, secondly, yeah, thirdly, to sum up. So those are markers. In listening, we also have them. So we should teach our students to be able to identify the markers while listening. Texts, yeah. What kind of text do we use? All types of texts that we actually might have in real life. It might be a monologue. In TOEFL, they practice it a lot. There is a professor, for example, giving a lecture. It might be an astronomy, it might be physics, it might be chemistry or biology. It doesn't matter. And it's usually 5 minutes long. Yeah. They usually don't use longer. Maybe sometimes 7, but I don't remember that I listened to 10-minute lectures. Well, maybe we do have them, but still, yeah, they're usually about 5 minutes long. We have this kind of listening tracks in IELTS as well, if you remember. We also have a dialogue. For example, two students are discussing the task, or it might be a professor and the students who are discussing the task, the assignment. It might be multiple participants when 3 students discussing the assignment, or it might be a professor and 2 students discussing the assignment. A casual conversation, it might be announcements, instructions or directions, all different types. Forms, description, exposition, argumentation, all types again, instruction, narration, and the length depends on the number of turns taken. In IELTS, as we mentioned before, we listen only once. In TOEFL, we listen twice. This is why listening parts in TOEFL might be a bit longer, because we listen twice. But in our English classes, I think I've mentioned it earlier as well. The listening part is usually like 1 minute long, maybe 2 minutes long. No longer than 2 minutes. It's made for practical reasons, because students might get lost, and they might get, they can lose the track of what is happening or what they are listening. It depends on their level as well. The lower the level, the shorter the track should be. The higher the level, like intermediate, upper, advanced, the longer is the length usually. It might be as short as 5 seconds sometimes, or 10 seconds at the beginner level, for example. Speed, speed of speech. Let's have a look. These are the words that students must be able to understand per minute. And as you may have noticed, conversations and interviews, and they have the biggest number of words per minute, because there isn't only one person speaking. There are several people speaking. So naturally, the number of words actually increase. Reading monologues and lectures, as you noticed, there are fewer words in the monologues. Selecting samples of speech, how should we select? If you're going to design a test of your own, well, these are the advice. Actually, this is the advice. These are the pieces of advice, because advice is uncountable. Choose passages according to specifications. So ideally use native speakers, and it must be an authentic speech. I remember 13 years ago, 15 or 12 years ago, when I was applying for masters, we had a test, national test, and the text was written by a non-native speaker, by a local woman, and she had a terrible accent. The number of questions in variant B was also mixed, so they were just scattered randomly, and we had difficulty in answering them. This was also incorrect. You shouldn't do so. What should come incorrect order? Well, but nowadays they say they use native speakers. Master students nowadays are a bit more like here. They have native speakers in the listening part. The quality of recording should be high. Maybe I've noticed it as well. When I worked at school, we had a test for teachers. It was an Olympiad for teachers, and we had listening parts. Unfortunately, the recording was of very bad quality, and it significantly reduced validity and reliability, because we couldn't hear. We listened to the recording only twice, as the instructions were written. But later we learned that some schools actually listened to it 3 or even 4 times because of its bad quality. the teachers insisted, and their principals who were conducting the test, they yielded to say, okay, let's listen again. And they listened 4 times. All right. Live presentations may be used occasionally. Like maybe TED Talks, yeah, they're very popular nowadays. Avoid passages originally intended for reading. Yeah. So try to use the passages which are actually intended for listening. So you can use actually ready-made materials. I mean, on the internet, there are plenty of them. Or conversations, yeah, short discussions that are available for listeners, not for readers. Okay, and the length, I mentioned it earlier. The length depends on what is tested and depends on the level of the students. Yeah. So if it is IELTS academic, it might be even like 10 minutes long, but it's not as long as 10 minutes if I'm not mistaken. It's usually 5 minutes long, 5, maybe 7. 20 seconds for giving instructions, that mean directions. Yeah. Yeah, now writing items. As far as writing items is concerned, keep your questions sufficiently apart in the passage. So otherwise students might actually answer them incorrectly. Yeah? If you squeeze 2 questions in one sentence, students might make too many mistakes. Well, if it is a short information, just like time and place, it might be okay, yeah? But if you squeeze too many questions in a very short period, yeah, it might be quite challenging for students. So make sure that there is some space, yeah, some time between those questions. Paraphrase is necessary, just like in reading, we need to paraphrase, but you can give some warning in passage. So you mustn't paraphrase it to that extent that it is not recognizable. Yeah. But sometimes it happens in IELTS, like you're listening, you're waiting for the answer, and only then you realize that you skipped it because people are talking, they're answering the third question already. Yeah? So sometimes we just miss those warnings. Questions must come in the correct order, as I've mentioned about the test. So if you design 2 variants, A and B, do not mix the questions in variant B. Instead, ask different questions. You can ask different questions in both variants, it's totally fine, but make sure that the difficulty level of those questions is similar. All right. And allot time for reading questions before beginning the test. We usually do so even in IELTS or TOEFL. We have like 1 minute to read the questions. And it helps a lot because we know what to focus on while listening. Well, let's discuss types of testing. Yeah. So first is multiple choice. And as we know from previous lectures, the beauty of multiple choice, the advantage of multiple choice test is that it can be adapted to all levels of learning. Yeah. Starting from beginner to proficiency. Yeah. So they can work well for lower level skills because students don't have to produce something. They must be able to just recognize. For example, in this example, we have phoneme discrimination. So students must be able to distinguish different phonemes, mat, fat, bat. So m and b, for example, they must be able to differentiate mat. So the teacher might be reading mat, and they have to circle mat. Yeah, not fat, not bat. Okay, gap filling. On the top, we have a conversation, a script between man and woman. And down below, we can see a question in the worksheet. Please read it. and try to answer. So the answer is, the woman asks the man if he can help her. And it's only one word. Usually it's one word, maybe two, no more than that. Help her. Give me a hand. Give someone a hand means help. Yeah. So they paraphrased. And this is his mother. So mother's place. Yeah. Mother. They're a bit synonymous. Yeah, but not completely the same, but quite similar. And I think this might be just a good marker. Information transfer. Next one. Yeah. Requires minimal demand of productive skills. So we usually complete forms of name, age, yeah, we listen and complete the form. Like a phone number, yeah, or price. It might be labeling diagrams or pictures, or showing routes on a map. We have a lot of the listening tasks like this in IELTS when we are given a map and then we have to follow the route, yeah, and choose the correct shop, for example, and make diary entries. Note taking, a very interesting technique of testing listening. I've never practiced it before. I've never seen it, but it exists. Yeah, if you'd like to use it, it's also okay. So use a passage from which notes can be taken is very important. Yeah, so it must have enough information. Yeah. Candidates take notes during the talk, so they listen and take notes. They're not given the worksheet yet. They just listen and take notes. So it's similar to dictogloss, audирование. Yeah, so they just listen and take notes. When listening finishes, yeah, candidates are provided worksheets. Only then are they given the worksheets, and then they have to complete the assignment. It might be either fill in the gaps, it might be multiple choice or whatever. Yeah, but you must trial this test before using it, of course. Yeah, you must trial for its validity and reliability. Transcription. Students must be able to transcribe numbers or spelled words. Telephone numbers, names of people, yeah, places. They usually pronounce their difficult surnames. They usually use difficult surnames, and they spell it. How do you spell it? And they say, and they use a lot of G and H and J and J. Yeah, so you must be able to identify the difference. Students get confused sometimes, and they spell them really quickly. It's a real-world task, and sometimes even native speakers make mistakes. They can make mistakes with 14 and 40, 15 and 50, for example. So train your students before they take this kind of test. Another technique that might be used is dictogloss. In Russian, I think it's called audирование. In Soviet times, it was very popular, but we usually did it individually. We never did it in pairs. And I remember when I was at school, our teacher would read a short passage, and she would read it usually twice. In the very beginning, when we just started practicing it, she would read it 3 times. Then she would decrease it to twice. While listening, we were not allowed to take any notes. In the beginning, we were allowed, actually, very short notes. So she recommended us, she recommended that we shouldn't write sentences, of course. She actually said that we were not allowed to write sentences, only short phrases, like with names, places, some very specific information, that is worth mentioning now. After reading it twice, and after taking notes while listening, we were requested to construct the whole discussion. I mean, the whole script. And this worksheet, we were trained to listen, and we were trained to memorize what we were actually spoken. Yeah, it was quite an interesting activity, quite challenging one. Not well. Some students found it really difficult, but I think it was worth it. Another variation of it is written in pairs. We usually use in pairs version for practicing when we practice listening skills. We don't use them a lot in listening exams. It's done in a similar way. The teacher breaks the text into 3 parts. The teacher reads the first part of the passage, but only once. Then students work in pairs, and they discuss what they heard. But while listening, of course, they take notes individually. Then the teacher stops, students work in pairs and compare their notes. They discuss what the teacher said. Okay. They finish. The teacher continues again. He reads the second part. Students listen, take notes, work in pairs. And the third part. And again, they take notes, work in pairs. Okay. And in the end, they have to reconstruct the whole story. Also very interesting activity. I like it. It might be used actually for class activity during your lessons, but individual part might be used as a test. Yeah, as an exam. All right. Well, this is the activity that you don't have to do. Yeah, you don't have to do it. I'll upload the PowerPoint presentation to on Google Classroom. Please have a look and revise. Do you have any questions? I think I need to stop recording.